Right, what we're going to be doing now, we're going to be making classic sauce which every chef should know how to make fresh. Not no packet stuff, fresh. And that's called the Béchamel sauce. Now the Béchamel sauce, or white sauce, you find this sauce in dishes like cauliflower cheese or even a lasagna. And then there's variations of the Béchamel sauces. When you add cheese to it, for example, it becomes a mornay. When you replace the milk with stock, it becomes a velouté. And these are all the different options that can happen from that basic white sauce Béchamel. So, what we're going to be doing, as you can see our ingredients, we have butter, flour, milk. This is a basic Béchamel. There is variations of this basic Béchamel, but we're just going to be doing this for the purpose of this video. So what we're going to be doing, we're going to be firstly melting 50 grams of butter. We melt that butter. Now the most important thing is that butter does not burn. We don't want that butter to burn. So as you can see, the heat's a bit too much. We're controlling the heat at all times as a chef. We control our heat. We're looking for our indicators. So our butter's melting nicely there. And once our butter's fully melted, we're going to be adding our flour into this same pot and mixing the two together. This forms something called a roux. R-O-U-X, roux. So we're going to just melt that butter. Make sure it's fully melted before we do add our flour. So we got 50 grams of butter, and we add to that 50 grams of flour as well. And we mix in. Notice I'm using a wooden spoon. I'm not using a whisk. You aim to not use a whisk because depending on back in the day, there was old pans, copper pans, and what used to happen is the copper pans, when you use a whisk, it will cause your Béchamel to turn grey. So you do not, I repeat, do not use whisks. So, as you can see right there, we've got the butter and the flour that's melted, butter melted, flour added, and we produce our roux. At this stage here, several things can happen. For a Béchamel sauce, we do something called a blonde roux. Blonde. Okay? Blonde meaning the colour blonde. When we're making something called a velouté, we'll do a brown roux. So that means we will cook the velouté, cook the roux more in order to help form the base and colour of our sauce. So, as you can see, we're melting down, cooking our roux right there. Now, as we were saying, there's different versions of the Béchamel sauce, all involving the same procedure, but different ways to infuse ingredients. The old classical method of a Béchamel sauce involves a pot with the milk heating up with a studded onion. A studded onion is an onion that has been peeled and cloves have been pierced, the skin, to form a stud as such. And that infuses the milk. Now one thing to always remember whenever you are making a Béchamel is always had hot to cold or cold to hot. Never are two products cold or never are two products hot. So as you can see, we have a hot roux, cold milk. Now if it was the other way around, I had hot milk, I would then have a cold roux. So with our hot roux, we add in a bit of our milk. One thing about Béchamel, if you add the milk too fast and you don't mix it fast enough or thoroughly enough, it makes a lumpy sauce. And the only way to prevent a lumpy sauce is making sure that you add your milk gradually. You don't add all your milk. So you add some, you mix. Making sure it is thoroughly mixed in before you add any more milk. See what's happening? This is also formed the basis of if you was making choux pastry, where you have to do making up a mixture like this as well. And a choux pastry we use for obviously eclairs, profiteroles as such. So we're adding our milk, we're mixing in, and we keep on doing this gradually. Even at this point here, do not be tempted to use that whisk. If you mix it thoroughly enough, the milk will mix in. But you just have to mix it. It does involve some arm, but you'll get the better consistency and the correct colour as well. See right there? Whoops. Do our best to make sure it stays within the pan. Control our heat, control our heat. Again, we add it slow, thoroughly mix it. Now one thing to remember is when you are making this sauce, never ever season it at the start. Flour has this sauce means that the flour has to cook out. So what tends to happen is, bring the camera up here, with the flour content so high, and the flour has to cook out, and when it cooks out, it slowly starts to reduce, and then we start tasting flavour. So if we season our sauce at this point here, when the flour is still at such a high level, when the flour starts cooking out and then you'll find that you've over seasoned your sauce. So always ensure that your flour has been cooked out thoroughly before seasoning this sauce. So here we have it. We're mixing it in, mixing it in. Starts creating that smooth white sauce. Very smooth right there. Making sure that we're getting in all the corners, because bearing in mind where there's heat being applied, it's likely that it could easily catch on the bottom, which causes the sauce to burn. So we make sure that when you are stirring, you stir all areas, not just in the middle. And we just keep on going through like that. And you're seeing that smooth sauce just coming through. Just take that bit of milk out. You can see that clear, smooth white sauce is being made. Because now, whoops, be careful of things like that. So remember what I was saying, when we do add milk like that, got to be careful how hard we whisk or beat, because it can easily cause additional accidents. So we start off slowly, making sure we mix it in well before we increase the intensity. To that smooth sauce that's being achieved. Nice smooth. Now this sauce, once all the milk has been added that we need, one thing you got to remember as well is when you are making this sauce, is as the flour does cook out, it also does make it thicker. Okay? And if it does become too thick as it's cooking out, then make sure that you add more milk to it in order just to loosen the consistency. So as you can clearly see, look at that smooth sauce. Just zoom in right there. A nice, smooth, lump-free sauce. And let's just thin it out a bit. With no whisks involved, but just a wooden spoon. Now once all our milk has been added, like I'm saying, the sauce can take anything, depending on the quantity, anything from 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes onwards to further cook. But one thing to make sure is once you've achieved such a smooth sauce, do not, I repeat, do not go away and leave it, because it will start catching on the bottom, and then when you come along you're getting some burnt sauce or it's sticking to the bottom, creating lumps. So do remember to keep the stirring going on. Remember, when we're stirring, we're getting in all the corners, not just the middle. In all the corners. So, we keep that sauce cooking on the side.
Stop.
Oops.